So welcome everyone, and I would like to give the floor to Rafał Pankowski, who is the founder of a Never Again Association.
Hello, I would like to welcome everybody on behalf of the Never Again Association. This very interesting session, I believe, is taking place in as part of the project on dealing with the Holocaust and genocide, denial and distortion lessons for and from Southeast Asia. Which is supported by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. And also today we are joined by our new partners, the Combat Anti-Semitism movement. I'm sure that many of you participated in the previous sessions, which introduced us to the subject of the history of the Jewish people and the Holocaust, including the issue of Holocaust denial and genocide distortion. Today we are going to talk specifically about the Holocaust through Buddhist eyes. I'm not going to introduce our speaker yet. I'm going to introduce our moderator, the good friend of the Never Again Association, Venerable Lablu Barua, who is originally from Bangladesh, but based in Thailand. Venerable Lablu is a PhD candidate in peace studies at the Buddhist University, Mahachulalongkorn Raja Vidyalaya. He's a monk at Wat Pramarangsi Buddhist monastery in Bangkok. He's also peace ambassador who has been engaged in interfaith dialogue in Asia and across the world. So Venerable Lablu, I hand over to you, and please introduce our speaker. Microphone.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello? Yeah. So good evenings, afternoons, and mornings to all of the venerable monks, guests, leaders, sponsors, and organizers. It is my pleasure to be a moderator for these meetings. Thank you so much, Professor Rafał Pankowski, co-founders of the Never Again Association, Polish sociologist and political scientist, and thanks our Natalia Pankowski. And thank you for seizing the times to join us with today. Today is the third meetings in the series of online meetings, the Holocaust through Buddhist eyes. We have a diverse participant, religious leader, Buddhist monks, civil society representative from Thailand, Cambodia, Myanmar, Bangladesh, India, and others country. Please share the name and country in chat. Where are you from? Because a few new participants join with us. Our speaker today is Helen Carmen Means. She will talk about around 35 to 40 minutes, and then there will be opportunity to ask questions to the presenters. Everyone can raise a hand in the course of questions and comments. Our honorable speaker will answer all of your questions. Our first and second meetings were recorded. You can watch on Facebook page, Never Again Associations, and Holocaust Education and Genocide Awareness in South and Southeast Asia and our personal pace. Now, I'd like to introduce our honorable speaker. Today, our honorable speaker is Helen Carmen Means. She is an author, speaker, interrelationship focusing guide, and meditation master. And she is a authorized senior Buddhist monks, meditation teachers by the Chayam Rinpoche from 1975 in USA. She was born and raised in Montreal, and she has spent most of the times in Boulders, Colorado, but makes long visits to Poland to engage with our history while depending friendship, teachings, and promoting dialogue with her lineage. As citizen of Canada, the USA, and Poland, she has led meditation workshops and retreats on ancestral healings in both Europe and North America. For years, she also practiced and taught the Japanese art of Kyodo Jian archery. As a daughter of Polish Jews who survived the Holocaust, Helen Carmen Means began practice meditations, Buddhist meditation at the age of 19. Since 2006, she has spent over 2 years recharging, promoting dialogues, and deepening personal and ancestral connections in Poland. Her award winnings are Silver Books Award for her books, Buried Rivers, a spiritual journey into the Holocaust, West Lake Books in 2018, recounts this journey through the eyes of Jewish and dissidents and Buddhist practitioners, intimately exploring family, religious, and cultural boundaries. And in 2019, he got the bronze medal for the independent publishers from IPPY. Means is committed to promoting dialogue, deep listenings, and compassionate self-awareness. I'd like to welcome the presenters to deliver the presentations. The floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. Here where I am. Can you hear me, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
I can
we
hear
hear
you.
you.
Good, thank you. So here where I am in Boulder, Colorado, the sun has just risen. It is just after 7 in the morning. And I've been up for a few hours. So I apologize in advance if my mind is not so clear. But I'm extremely happy, very honored to be here, really honored by the invitation, and feel very blessed to have this opportunity to connect with people from so far away in Asia, in Europe, as well as a few from North America. It is part of this time that we are living in, this time of tremendous crisis, this time when our own, humanity's own actions are visibly causing problems for global survival, whether it is genocide, whether it is destruction of the environment. We are seeing the karma, the cause and effect of our inability to realize our interconnection. So it is also magical that we have this opportunity through technology, through the internet, this network of connection, that we can connect and together try to find some common understanding and inspiration, which is, I believe, our inherent goodness as human beings, and is also connected deeply with what the Buddha discovered, this idea of Buddha nature. So Buddha was not a god, a deity. Buddhism is not a religion in the sense of an external deity, but he, through his own effort, personal curiosity, personal observation of suffering, went on a journey to discover the causes of the suffering and how can we alleviate that suffering. So in this talk, just generally, I hope I will touch on the challenge. How do we overcome this tendency we have to create the separate, completely separate self, which is only worried about my own survival. And then you become my enemy or my friend. You are either in my family, my tribe, my community, or you are a threat. And this is the fundamental, we could say, error of our life. We have to see ourselves as different, diverse, unique, and individual. And yet we have to see the connection that we have and that we are not separate. So how do we, I want to talk a little bit more about that. Also a little bit about the practice of, or just a few words about how the practice works to undo it. So it's also, and I understand that there are people of different religious backgrounds here, and even among the same religious background, whether it be Jewish or Catholic or Buddhist, there are different views and different understandings. So I hope you understand that the view I present is how I was trained, my understanding, and hopefully there is enough commonality, but of course, there can be some slight differences in how I understand Buddhism. So I just want to acknowledge that. And then I think the important question is, once we understand, okay, this is the situation, we have this tendency to separate ourselves and we could say make ourselves smaller and fight for our individual survival and not recognize the interconnectedness by which we can actually, by which humanity can actually survive and not destroy itself. So how do we develop the courage? And that's an important issue, is that it's not just a question of believing something. It's not a question of dogma, but it's a question of personal investigation and discovery and courage, actually. And of course, we need each other's help. We need each other's inspiration. So first, yeah, I think I should probably like to know a little bit about myself, my story. The book that I wrote is a memoir, so it's telling the story of my experience as the child of Holocaust survivors, my parents were both Jewish Holocaust survivors, both born in Poland. Their families lived in Poland for hundreds of years. Exactly how long, I do not know. As a child, I grew up in a family just shortly after the war, whose focus was very much on survival, on having to create the conditions of physical security, food, etc. The Holocaust was not talked about very much. And we have to acknowledge that after such a trauma, people are not yet able to emotionally bridge what has happened to them. So the first order of business is survival. So I grew up in this environment, feeling this burden, we could say, this kind of invisible, unspoken burden. And as children, we absorb a great deal that's not spoken. So basically, my parents were not very religious as Jewish people. My father was more politically oriented. He was more of a socialist. My mother, I believe, was quite religious as a girl. But I believe after the war, there was probably some interruption of her faith. And perhaps it was also my father's influence. So religion was not the most important thing in our family, but the identity as Jewish people was very strong. However, even though I grew up in this, I had these spiritual questions. I had this sense of pain and also a sense of maybe being different in some way. And we have to understand that the trauma, not only of genocide, but of dislocation, when people are geographically, they not only are cut off from their family, but geographically traveling through several countries. In my case, my father was in South America and then back to Europe, to France, to Canada. My mother went from Poland to concentration camps in Germany, rescued to Sweden, found one survivor who was her brother, who was still alive in France. So we have this migration from one country to another country to another country, and they arrived in Canada 1 year before I was born. So from time to time, somehow there was always this sense that you're not sure, I'm not sure if I belong in this world. This shadow, this burden, this vague sense that a huge break has happened. So when I was about 19 years old, I happened to hear an announcement about a Buddhist teacher. He was from Tibet. His name was Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. And I attended his seminar, which was called Passion, Aggression, and Ignorance. These are 3 basic principles of what human beings do because they have this uncertainty. So the ground of our being is very open. But it is so open that as when we are born, we also look for something to grasp onto. And so it is very natural, very instinctive that we try to create a solid sense of identity, and we follow our instincts to bring toward us anything that supports us, to push away that which seems to threaten us, and perhaps to just ignore the rest. So the survival of the sense of self is actually a function of being a human being, which in some sense it's necessary. But unfortunately, we need to balance this or go beyond this. Otherwise, our reality and our interaction with the rest of the world becomes this us and them. As long as we have a common enemy, I know who I am. And there is a kind of oversimplicity. We don't have to think. We don't have to examine. We don't have to feel. And what is actually going on in the situation, we can just categorize, place things in a category. Good, bad, this is for me, this is against me. So when I met my teacher, he asked me a simple question. He said, "How old are you?" It was a day or two before my 19th birthday, but I felt extremely old. And I started to cry. And I understood in that moment, in the exchange, that my pain was important, and that somehow this pain could be expressed in the situation. So it is our awareness of suffering that allows us to go beyond the limitation of passion, aggression, and ignorance. And it is our pain that actually allows us to connect with each other. So that was when I was 19 years old. And now it's about 50 years later. And about 15 years ago, in 2006, I happened to be on a German train. I was attending a conference in Germany. It was related to this practice of Zen archery. And I was by myself. And I started to notice, it was January, I looked outside the window, the sky was gray, I saw some smoke, I saw chain link fences, and an environment, a kind of atmosphere was surrounded me. But then internally, I also felt something on a kind of deeper level, on an emotional level. I felt this, some kind of a cloud or atmosphere above me of tremendous, not good feeling. And as I noticed it, it became stronger. And suddenly I actually felt something as if like a little particle from this cloud came into my heart. And I felt something very, very bad. You know, like if you were to put your face in some garbage and smell rotting, bad feeling. And I felt ill, actually. I didn't realize, I didn't know that this week was the 60th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, that it was the International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And there were many ceremonies and observations, commemorations in Europe during that week, but I had no idea. So slowly, after some time, I came home. I was very disoriented, and I consulted with some healers, some wise counselors, and I understood that there was somehow a connection between myself and perhaps this energy left over from the Holocaust, this unresolved pain. And so we could say perhaps some connection with those who had died, who were not able to reconcile their experience. And the question that came to me was, how can you still believe in basic goodness? And this was the question that finally, actually, I felt that I understood why, or I could put together these two sides of my life, that I was born into this family of Holocaust survivors, and somehow I didn't feel I belonged. I didn't maybe belong completely in my culture, but I also didn't completely belong to my family. And I felt sort of like the fish who's out of water, right? And this question, how can you still believe in basic goodness, though, made me feel like, this is a good question, not an easy question. And so eventually this was how this is how the book starts. I'm on the train, and then I decide somehow I must go to Poland. And Poland was the place where the Holocaust, the main location of the Holocaust, of the genocide in Europe, and the largest concentration of Jews. So there were 3 million Jews in Poland before the war, and approximately, I believe, 9% survived. So, so this led to my making journey after journey to Poland, finding out something about my own family and the history, but also feeling this profound reconnection with the place of my ancestors, which was alive in me somehow. So, Natalia, maybe we could show just a few pictures. The picture of my family, my mother's family. And the only reason that this picture exists is because they had some relatives who had emigrated to, I believe, Argentina. And someone had a picture of the family. Of course, from my parents, from my mother, she had nothing. I mean, nothing remained. So you see the 2 parents and the 5 children. My mother was the eldest of the 5 children. She is in the middle on the right with the pigtails. And the boy on the right side, next to his father, the little boy to the far right, that was my uncle. These 2 survived the war, and they survived partly luck, They survived because they were of an age where their life force, their ability to survive was strong. They survived because they were imprisoned in a ghetto where they were employed as slave labor for the Nazis. And it is this particular ghetto, the Lodz ghetto, or Łódź, as we say in Polish. This ghetto had the most survivors of any other location in Poland. Originally in the city of Łódź, there were 235,000 Jews living. It was the second largest city in Poland, second largest concentration of Jews, second largest ghetto in Poland. And the Łódź ghetto was the longest lasting because it was an industrial town, and they simply turned themselves into a workforce, producing shoes, underwear, boots, lingerie, uniforms, hats, everything you can imagine. They turned it into a production place for the Nazi war machine, as well as the German population. And so everyone who could work had an advantage. Nevertheless, my grandfather with the mustache died of starvation and illness. My grandmother was gassed at Auschwitz. One of the other sons was shot. The other one starved or died of emaciation at Dachau. So of the 7, 2 survived. So perhaps we could go to the next one, Natalia. Okay, well, this is more recent, of course. This is probably something like 5 years ago. This is a memorial in Łódź at the train station. And so you can see the names of many of the camps. And actually this week is the anniversary of the 77th anniversary of the liquidation of this ghetto, when the remaining approximately 67,000 Jews who were still alive were shipped to Auschwitz for extermination. And my mother and actually 3 siblings, right? My mother, 3 siblings, and her mother were on the train together, went to Auschwitz. Yes, then they were separated, etc. And maybe we can continue. So this is a photograph that I found in a book. It was in a German archive originally. It is just a scene of people in the Łódź ghetto. And by chance, I happened, this is only a few years ago, to recognize or suspect that the boy in the bottom right was my uncle. I recognized his big ears, and I wasn't sure, but I also recognized the other small boy in the front on the left with the very soft, beautiful eyes. I recognized him because he was my uncle's best friend. He also survived. And growing up, I knew them all my life. I knew this other boy. And he was still alive when I found this photograph. So I sent the photograph to him. He was probably in his 80s. And I asked, is this you? And is it my uncle? And he called back and said, yes, it's me. Where did you find this photograph? So I'm not sure what else we have there. Maybe we can go on to the next photo. It's my parents. This is identity card in France. So my mother was from Auschwitz sent to Ravensbrück in Germany, and then in 1945 rescued by the Red Cross to Sweden. There she discovered that her brother, that little boy, was in France, so she left to be reunited with her only living relative. My father was in Paris at the time because he had escaped the war, gone to South America. Unbeknownst to me, he was married before the war. His first wife went back to Poland. He came back planning to look for his first wife. And then he was convinced that there was no point. She was not a survivor. And my parents met here in Paris. And my brother was born in Paris. And then eventually they came to Canada. Do we have another photo, or is that it? Maybe that's it. Okay, yeah. So time is passing. I want to acknowledge the really excellent presentation last week by Jeremy Jones about genocide. And I wanted to reflect about these 10 stages of genocide that he presented. And noticing again that the first stage is classification. In other words, there is us and there's them. And to recognize that this is the foundation. And this is also the fundamental foundation of Buddhism, that we create this separation. And we can actually, if you, I don't know if this is something everyone who has some background in Buddhism, even from different school, different tradition, but we could talk about it as a system of psychology. We have this openness within us, this inherent awake quality, this capacity to directly perceive the nature of reality, to be fully present, and because of that, to recognize our interdependence, and because of that, to act with compassion and kindness. But we also have this tendency as human beings to separate and create this polarity, that I am separate, I am insecure, therefore I need to create security for myself. So the us and them. And in Buddhism, we have a system, a psychology system, a way of looking at how this operates, how we construct more and more systems to defend this sense of self, to defend and protect us and them. And we could say that, and it's called the 5 skandhas, or the 5 heaps. So we have this fundamental separation, and then we have feeling, using our feeling sense to sense what to reject, what to accept. We have our perceptions, we sense where is the threat, where is the enemy. This is good, this is bad, a very sophisticated system of communication and perception. And then we have our conceptual mind to create more distinctions and put things in categories so that we do not have to directly perceive. We can just use our pre-packaged concepts And then finally, we have the fifth skanda, where we create really a tight container. And this mirrors, in a way, these 10 stages of genocide, where we start with the classification that you are different. And then we create more and more ways of enforcing this difference through various kinds of persecution, discrimination, dehumanization, polarization, etc. And many of these are happening simultaneously. So it's not just one at a time, but it's a very fast and very connected way of covering all the bases. And the ultimate result, finally, is genocide and the denial of the genocide, extermination and then denial. So to me, it was very interesting that actually we can see the same pattern, this same fundamental pattern coming within the Buddhist teachings. Because actually what the Buddhist teachings are doing, it's not really a dharma, it's an observation of how things work, how things start very small, and then we can increase them more and more. So we have this individual level. I know we don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to try to be short in summarizing the rest of my comments. We have this individual level of not recognizing our interconnection, of creating this separation. But then what do? We use our connection with each other, our group identity, to make this sense of protection stronger. So I think what's very relevant for us in this discussion is, how are we relating to the group, the religious tradition, the culture, whatever gives us a sense of home, family, belonging? We need that sense of belonging, but that belonging, we need to examine what it's based on. If it's based purely on, or somehow evolves accidentally into the area where it is about protecting ourselves and not seeing the connection, if it is simply becomes a substitute for our individual intelligence, our individual capacity to be present and aware. In other words, it's like another God, right? The group we are in becomes the external source. And for me, Buddhism is about recognizing the intrinsic dignity and intelligence of each human being, and that every religion has something valuable to contribute. But in Buddhism, it happens to be this emphasis on the individual wisdom that is actually present in each of us, but needs some help to be rediscovered. And so we have practices such as meditation practice, which involve bringing body and mind together into the present moment, and recognizing that what we are thinking is very often separating us from being more present, more available. And so there are, of course, I feel like I can't really go into tremendous details here. But this how we relate to our group, our culture, our religion is I think, of extreme importance. And also the same pattern, to see that it's the same pattern: passion, aggression, and ignorance. What is ignorance? Ignorance is actually denial. It is denying. And there is a very strong cultural tendency to deny what is unpleasant, to deny what is unspeakable. And I just want to quote a couple sentences by a Catholic priest, Father Patrick Desbois, Catholic priest from France, who did very deep research into an aspect of the Holocaust, not in the concentration camps, but in Eastern Europe, where primarily there were very sophisticated groups of officers who went in and organized mass shootings. So the book, one of his books, is called The Holocaust by Bullets. And this is what he says: the perpetrators know that most people cannot and do not want to think of the possibility of an act of genocide. The unbelievable nature of genocide is a weapon often used by those who perform it, whether it is the genocide of the Jews, the Armenians, or the Tutsis in Rwanda, and it allows the perpetrators to deny their feat. The common incapacity to accept genocide is known by those who commit it and to the accomplices. It is built into their plans. So I think we need to be willing to question what information we are receiving, willing to look into our own fear, our own insecurity, and willing to recognize that to be a human being, a conscious human being, a good human being, it's quite a job. It's quite a responsibility. It takes courage. So we need to have this openness, this curiosity, and this willingness to not always have, to not know ahead of time. This means to face this insecurity, this fundamental sense of uncertainty, takes courage. And I want to mention there is actually a Buddhist group called, there is the Zen Buddhist tradition, and within that there is a tradition called the Zen Peacemakers. And this was headed by Bernie Glassman Roshi, a Jewish person born in New York, who was the student of a Zen lineage holder. And in 1994, he went to Auschwitz, and in 1996, he held the first bearing witness retreat in Auschwitz. And the three tenets, you could say, the three principles of his practice. And so it wasn't so much that he would teach, but he would bring people together from diverse backgrounds. And I attended one of these bearing witness retreats at Auschwitz in 2011. The three tenets are not knowing, beginning with not knowing. So this speaks to our tendency to want to know in advance and to believe what we are told, versus can we not know? Can we be open and realize feel that discomfort of not knowing? Because that's where we become open and able to see who's in front of us, what is happening. And the second part is bearing witness. And this he would do simply by bringing these people together from diverse backgrounds. In fact, we would sit at the selection site at Birkenau and recite the names of the dead. So it is a way of making contact, feeling physically, emotionally, being physically present to what happened there, but also to the feelings of everyone coming together for this purpose. And these were people from, from Israel, from Palestine, from Poland, from Germany. We have the children of the perpetrators. And the third tenet is that somehow from this encounter, from this willingness to be present and bear witness, some kind of loving action, some kind of healing occurs. Not because we force it to happen, because we tell ourselves to behave a certain way, but it happens organically from that basic goodness, that Buddha nature, from that what we encounter when we are willing to encounter each other. So I think that speaks to the interfaith dialogue, which we are involved in right now. And yeah, I want to maybe just close by reading another quote from a book called The Tears of the Ancestors. This is written by a Dutchman who also went on one of these bearing witness retreats at Auschwitz. And so he talks about this, the tendency we have to create tribes and groups, but also how they can be permeable. So at the boundary, there is a possibility of interaction with the space outside of the tribal borders. People at the border of the tribal soul can hold additional identities because the edges can touch and overlap with other tribal fields. The borders are still needed. Without borders, tribal identity would dissolve, which is not the goal. The tribe in its positive aspects gives us strength, a sense of belonging, and it links us to our ancestors. We remain a member of our own group, while at the same time, this particular belonging is not the single factor that determines our identity any longer. And then I also want to quote something that I found somewhere. It's a quote by Rabbi Michael Melchior, Israeli deputy education minister in the past, I believe. And he said, "No crime in history has been so well documented as Auschwitz, but we have to teach Auschwitz in the right way, that when we deal with anti-Semitism, we are also fighting for dignity for every human being." So because of time, I'm going to stop. There's a lot more that I meant to say, intended to say, but I think maybe I've said the most important things. So thank you so much for your attention, and I really welcome any questions. I'll have a look in the chat, and I'm sure Venerable Lavlu, you will help us.
Yes. So thank you so much for your informatives and interesting, and also your life experience about talking with us. And when we talk about your life history, how do you move from to the mostly your family, move from one country to another country, it really feels so painful with us. And we are very honored and very privileged that you are sharing with your experience with us today. Now, we are going to ask the questions in and answer sessions. And we are very privileged and honored. If anyone have their question or comment, you can raise your hand and we will be asked the questions and you will be directly can talk with our honorable speaker. So first, at the first, I saw the one questions in here in the chat box from our Cambodian friends, and he mentioned about some questions. Please, can you ask the questions to our honorable speaker directly?
Thank you so much, Honorable Bablu. Hello, Helen.
Hello, Visal.
Hello, Helen. My name is Visal. I am from Cambodia, and currently I am working on dealing with the past, with civil peace service forum civil pacifist in Cambodia, and so I am working more closely to our senior generation who experience about genocide, both civilian and the perpetrator. So I am a Buddhism, that I'm not tendency to any one of religion, try to, a religion of the human being, not about belief. But I respect all kinds of believers. So right now we are working closely with all religion in our community, Catholic, Protestant, Baha'i, Islam, as well as the Buddhist, to figure out how can we help each other, how can we improve our society to move forward, to move forward without repeating the same problem such as a genocide. But sometimes that we still have stuck. I mean, for the new generation like me, even though I know about that my country, my community has the genocide, but I will not have that strong feeling as during my parent time, not have the strong feeling like my parent or my grandparent generation. So for this reason, we come together to think about how we can deal with the past. To me, I believe that it's not about human itself that have a lot of courage to kill each other, but it's blame about the system where it shaped people to behave and to think in that way. And now come to my generation, crossing, interviewing, talking with our old generation, I figure out that, and it's not about the civilian who have suffered, the traumatized, with the genocide, but the perpetrator as well. Because right now, nothing they can fix, because they were killing people at that time. They regret what they are doing because they was young, they were not educated, they was motivated by the political propaganda or, the political leader, which is said them to behave and act in that way. But now, nothing they can recover. The only thing they can do is sorry. But sorry is said something can fix the problem that they done in the past, of course not. So this is something where it is something which is very difficult for us to work, because it's so sensitive, because we don't want to bring a nightmare to them again, to bring them to remember what they don't want to remember, or the feeling that they don't want to have it anymore. So my question, since the topic today is about, Holocaust and on the eye of the Buddhism, it to me is, I have two important questions to asking Helen. Number one is, how can we help you personally dealing with the past? What you want us, for example, what you want us to do for you? How can you heal your past? That is first question. And second question is what part of the history that you want the world to be heard, and you want your history of the Jewish people to be matter, so that the young generation like us could rethinking, doing reflection in which way that we can do together and take as a lesson learned from the Jewish people and not going to repeat the people from the past, such as the Holocaust, Nazi. And sorry, I have another question. The last question is, how can Buddhism play as a very important role to healing the inner peace for the people who have suffered from the Holocaust experience, and could shape or strengthen the anger, the suffering, to be as an opportunity, a lesson learned for the new generation like us to know and not to repeat it again. Thank you so much.
That was a lot, Visal. So I'm going to answer just in the maybe simplest way. And, I think in Buddhism, it is about direct experience, as I was saying. And it means the willingness to touch, to come into contact with the suffering, with the pain. But at the same time, the effects of trauma, you very well know the effects of trauma and the sense of shame that can exist for the victims, there can be, whenever we have separation, whenever we have trauma, there tends to be this frozen part that we cannot approach. And in the victims, it might manifest as anger, blame, like irreconcilable, trying to find someone to blame. There is in this kind of looking to blame or in this anger an inability to actually touch the pain. There is a desire to get rid of the pain. And for the perpetrators or children of descendants of perpetrators, there is similarly this pain. And very often shame. So it's a question of being honest and being kind and creating a space where you can, wherever, whether it is victims, perpetrators, people just trying to overcome the problem, where we have to touch into our own experience, whatever it is, in a safe environment, and to realize that we cannot necessarily go to the core of it, because like you said, there is this avoidance, they don't want to go there. So it's very important to meet each other where we are. In other words, not to force confrontation, but to allow and create spaces where we can simply touch whatever is the emotional pain that is available. And also, I think it's important to not to be too, there's something called the hierarchy of suffering. Like for instance, when I was working on my book, and I was part of a writing group with other writers, and of course, my book was focused on the Holocaust. But there was a Native American person in the group, and he said, "Well, what about my people?" You know, and he was like, so this hierarchy of suffering and feeling, well, my suffering is not so much because I'm just the child of a survivor or the grandchild of a perpetrator. This isn't really helpful to try to quantify who has the right, you know, who has the greatest suffering. We have to drop this hierarchical thinking and realize that whatever pain we have, that is the connection we can make. And when we can express with some just genuine honesty the pain that is present for us, or the frozenness, the inability, even to say, I am not able to touch this. I'm not able to touch this suffering. As I say it to you, I feel that. I feel it in my heart. So it's about creating space for very safe communication that does not try to push, but honors, really honors our experience, and all of us are feeling, are connected with this suffering. And not to worry that mine is not the real one, mine is not the best one. I don't know if that's helpful to you, Vishal. Does it make sense?
Yeah, thank you very much, our honorable speakers. Now we will be asked the next questions to the honorable professors from Bangladesh, and he's from Bangladesh, and he's professors from Dhaka University. So our honorable professor, Mr. Biman Kanti Barua, could you please kindly ask the questions to our honorable speaker?
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Can you hear me, please?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. At first, respected moderator, Venerable Labli Barua, guest of the speaker, dear brother and sister, greetings from Bangladesh. So, you know, now the global pandemic 19 situation is going on. My deep condolences to the families of those who died during the COVID-19 situation. I already, thanks to give the speaker, Helen Corman Mines, for her nice and well-put speech. So in this context, I have a question. So this question is, Buddhism never supports any types of killing. If a Buddhist majority country encourages killing in different way, what is your opinion to stop it?
Oh,
hello.
Could you say the last? Could you just say it once more, a little more, just because? Yeah, language and connection. Just say it again. The question.
Okay.
The last part.
I repeat the question. Buddhism never supports any types of killing.
Yes.
If a Buddhist majority country encourages killing in different way, what is your opinion to stop it? Is it clear?
What is my opinion how to stop hate? Yes. Yeah. It is very hard once it takes hold, and it's already happening. Yes, very hard. As Jeremy said last week, we have to talk to the people who are still have ears to listen, right? And we cannot it's generally speaking, we cannot counter hate with more hate. So this is the huge challenge. How can we find and communicate with people who are available to hear? And then, of course, you need, of course, there is the political and governmental aspect, the systemic aspect. So when you have a government, a system that is aligned, has already adopted the classification and dehumanization of a certain group, it's very unfortunate. Obviously, you know, I'm talking about the root, and then that, of course, has to do with education and trying to introduce into the system. And I think this is the work that is happening, hopefully, or the intention, the inspiration between of Nigdy WIἱCEJ, Never Again, to try to introduce this perspective where we can. I'm not personally, I am very well aware of the situation, not in great detail, but I have been aware for some years of the Rohingya genocide, and it's extremely painful and fortunate that Buddhists are perpetrating this. And we have to realize that anyone can, and any group is subject to this kind of disowning of their own intelligence, you know, disowning of their ability to distinguish between truth and propaganda. The more that we are, and this is how, you know, again, it's not the solution. Once we have the situation, it's very hard to undo. But this is the idea behind meditation practices, to awaken people's intelligence so they are more able to discriminate between propaganda and what is real. In general, I would say the more that people can be challenged simply by meeting people who have different views, the more we can meet them. And, you know, there is a wonderful video called, it's based on the white supremacist situation we have here in America, and about a Muslim woman who was maybe not born, but grew up in the United Kingdom and became and experienced, of course, this dehumanization, and then was very curious to examine this white supremacist movement. And so she has an excellent film. It's called White Right, or yes, White Right, Meeting the Enemy. And it's very, very powerful in terms of seeing how she had the courage to encounter these people who basically believed that she, you know, she was the enemy, right? She encountered them as a human being, and everything started to change because she had the courage. And instead of, so when we overly assume these people are hopeless, then maybe we destroy the possibility of communicating with them. So we somehow have to reserve in our hearts the possibility that there is hope, that some people are reachable. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar enough with the situation on the ground, you know, to see, oh, well, here's where you can go. These are the people you can talk to. I don't have this specific knowledge. I only know that the human encounter is very powerful. I don't know if that's helpful, but it's probably the best I can do at the moment. Thank you so much for the question. It's a very important question.
Thank you so much, our honorable speakers, and also our honorable Professor Bimans. Now we are like to ask the questions from our honorable professors, Professor Rafal Pankreski, co-founders of the Never Again Associations. Please.
Thank you.
The floor is for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ellen, for your wonderful talk. I want to touch upon what you said about identity, personal and collective, and also the issue of multiple identities and the combination of Jewish and Buddhist identity. So do you find this combination challenging? And also, do you see it as a significant phenomenon among Jewish communities today?
Very good question. Interesting question. And painful question a little bit also, because when I met my teacher, began to practice meditation and go to Buddhist Meditation Center for a retreat, I didn't think I was doing anything that would be, should be a problem. Because from my perspective, it wasn't even a religion. It was really a kind of understanding of how to live life in an open-hearted way, how to become, how to deal with suffering. And what could be more appropriate for a Jewish survivor of the Holocaust, you know, to deal with suffering. But my family at first rejected me. And in fact, my father told me that if I went back to this Buddhist meditation center, I would be disowned. And my uncle, the cute little boy, told me that I was killing my parents and that I would not be allowed to attend their funerals. You can imagine the effect this had on me, because I loved my family very much. And now I was told that I am the enemy of my family, because I was betraying to them. They felt I was betraying my loyalty, my identity as a Jew. And this was a great challenge for me. And I went to my teacher, and he told me that my connection with my family was extremely important. He told me that I could not disconnect from my family, and that I had to work with them. And very gradually he said, you know, do not reject them, and one day they will understand. And in fact, this is what happened, was when I was faced with this ultimatum, either you leave or we don't want you as part of our family. And I traveled to Israel. I spent several months there. And somehow, because I was willing to go deeper into my Jewish heritage at the same time and to respect my family, that gradually they were able to respect me also. And when I came back, somehow there was not this resistance anymore. And on my father's deathbed, I was sitting with my mother. I was present at the death of both my parents, and I feel that I was assistance to them, because in Buddhism, we also pay a great deal of attention to death. And we don't, usually death is something people don't want to talk about. In Buddhism, this idea of impermanence is very strong. And our connection to the dying process, and is met with not so much fear, but the same mind that we bring to meditation. And when I was sitting with my father, and my mother was looking at me, and she said, "Oh, now I understand. I understand." So I'm not sure I'm answering your question. I just went to more of a personal story, but for me, it's been very mixed. I feel that even though I wrote a book about the Holocaust, in a way, there are most of the conventional Jewish groups are not so interested in this book because it's challenging the Jewish identity. Because I am in both camps at the same time. So at the same time, I would say, interestingly enough, there are quite a lot of Buddhists here in North America, people who were raised as Christians, Jews, or no religion at all, who have adopted the Buddhist path. There's been a lot of course, because of Tibet and political situations there, migration of these Eastern traditions to North America. And what's interesting to me is that approximately 25% of these Buddhists are Jewish, of Jewish origin. So there is something interesting there. There is a connection somehow, that there are quite a number of Jews who are practicing Buddhism, as some and of course the population of the Jews in the United States, I believe it's something like 2%. So there is a disproportionate number of Jewish people among Buddhist practitioners. But I think more and more there is this understanding of dual identity, the capacity to hold more than one. Is that good, Raphael?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. As you answered, somebody wrote in the chat they were a Buddhist Jewish Quaker Unitarian from the US.
Thank you so much, our honorable speaker, and also our honorable Professor Raphael Prankos. And I think that we need to learn about our negative emotions and behavior, which are harmful to our pursuits of happiness and the positive emotions. So I'm going to the next questions from our Cambodia. So the next question comes from our Cambodian friends. Barbara, please, could you kindly ask the questions to our honorable speaker?
Yes, can you hear me? Thank you so much. Yeah, sorry that I cannot.
We cannot see you. We cannot see you. Can you?
I'm very sorry. I'm using an old computer and with no camera. I'm very sorry for that.
Okay.
That's all right.
Okay.
I saw Lynn Siegel raising her hand for a long time, so I don't want to go forward because she or he, I don't know, might have something urgent.
Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Yeah.
And Lynn lives in my town here. She has the opportunity to talk to me, but you don't. Okay. So go ahead.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll try to make it short, but I'm very thankful for this opportunity to ask this question. My background is German. I'm working in Cambodia for many years now at Tuxtlang Genocide Museum. So very deep into dealing with the Cambodian past, and yeah, with my German background, having dealt with the German past so long. In Germany, we strongly ask the question about who's responsible for what has happened. And coming to Cambodia, I didn't, and yeah, Buddhist Cambodia, I didn't hear this question asked so strongly. And this was a surprise for me. And so since long, I'm now bothered by this question of responsibility in Buddhism. And I would love to hear your thoughts on that. So responsibility for crimes, and asking this question of, is it important to point out who's responsible, and then what happens then next, or is it important?
Can I ask you, what do you think about that as a German? What do you think? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's funny. I have strong feelings of, I'm always asking these questions because I'm asking this question so strongly in Germany.
Yeah.
And my feeling is it's a mixture of being annoyed that it's not asked so strongly here. I can't understand it. But I'm really wondering. I'm trying more to wonder than to judge. But I'm really wondering. This question is not so in the foreground.
Yeah, there's a really interesting paradox here, I think, because taking responsibility is so important. It's sort of like if we don't face what happened and how we were a part of it, then we are creating the seeds for it to continue happening. So it's part of the denial. So in other words, the opposite of taking responsibility, you could say, is denial. But at the same time, I know in Germany, this very strong making sure we take responsibility, and maybe almost going too far, that there is a sense of blame and shame. There could be, I have German friends, so I have this impression, and maybe I'm wrong, but I have this impression. So I think, there is a way in which humanity overall, because if you are responsible and then I am free of responsibility, that's the problem. But the fact is that everyone, that we are all, no one is completely pure, completely innocent.
Sure.
And so there is this sense that when we were brought together for this bearing witness retreat, it was about seeing everyone seeing their own responsibility, their own darkness, their own denial, their own prejudice or bias in a situation. And when we seek to outline that one is responsible, then I am not responsible at all. It's like a way of, again, trying to load it somewhere else so that I don't have to feel it. And in a way that makes it harder for it to melt, for it to be released from the German psyche, So it's a paradoxical situation. I can understand, I can hear your frustration that there is not enough taking of responsibility. And so again, it's dealing with the situation that we have and where it is, and finding our way to confront, but not to aggressively confront, and to recognize that everybody has this mixture. That's the thing about reality and truth. It is complex. And in my book, maybe this is taking away from your question, but in my book, I include my uncle who bullied me, and in my youth, I include his testimony that he recorded before he died. He wanted to tell his story about his experiences. And one of them I found really interesting. He managed to survive for several months in Auschwitz. He was very energetic, very brave, and took chances. And he had some experience making shoes. And so he got a job making, he managed to be making shoes, custom shoes for German officers. And he made the promise that he could make shoes like in one day. And so they gave him some leather and said, okay, you have one day. And the leather was not good leather. It wasn't, he couldn't make the shoes from this kind of leather. So what did he do? He stole, he cut the leather from someone else's boots, and that was soft. And then he hid this leather underneath someone else's pillow. In other words, he was, if this leather was found, he would be shot. So he put it under someone else so that they would be shot if they were found. And then he talks about his interaction with the German officers who came. And he said that when he would, let's see, I have it here. He says, I was lucky. I was looked after. I took chances. The German officer could have taken a gun and shot me. But somehow, he said, when you were with Germans one at a time, he could feel their humanity. If they were together, three of them together, it was completely different. And he said, forget it. And this is the truth, God's truth. So to me, this kind of showed that, you know, people are not all good or all bad. You know, my uncle put someone else's life in danger so that he could survive. And when he was alone with the German, one German, and this is at the end of his life, so he could admit at the end of his life that he felt this this Nazi officer was a human being. But as soon as he had three together, he could feel this collective mentality that completely changed. So probably the previous comments were more relevant to your question. Do you have something else you can add or offer?
Yeah, no, thanks. I can see that on the individual level, but somehow your story at the end just brought it to yeah, what's the difference between the individual and the group? And because my question was, yeah, on the individual level, I can see it. On the level of the society, I'm still bothered with this question of how does Cambodia as a society deal with the responsibility. And yeah, at the moment, I don't know if you know that at the moment in Cambodia, the last trial is the probably last trial against the senior leader is coming to an end, and it looks like there will be no more trials. And yeah, so the question is open again. How will Cambodia deal with the perpetrators?
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for
I think the only thing I can say is, to the extent that it is not acknowledged, not dealt with, the problem is kind of continues. It doesn't go away. So this is in a way a strange kind of faith, but we can have faith that things do not disappear. Maybe that's the only thing we can say. They don't go away.
Yeah.
They don't go away.
Right.
To heal, to integrate, there has to be a kind of acknowledgement of what happened. And so maybe it takes longer. It comes out in some other form.
So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Actually, we came to the end of the past part of our meetings almost. So time is going on, and so I will be asked only one questions from the Asia, because this conference is mostly our focus on Asia and Southeast Asia. So we'll be asked some questions from the Asia, one question more, and I will be read the one of the comment. Belief a state doesn't adhere to the religious principles when it has or intends to adopt violent instruments as a means to achieve immediate results or mainstream violence in its overarching administrative norms and practice religious. This comment is given by our Anop Barua. And second, I will be request all of you, we are going to say again, please join with us on 2nd September, 4 p.m. in Bangkok time, and Cambodian time is also 4 p.m. and Bangladesh time is 3 p.m. and also India is, I think, 2:30 p.m. and you will join with us next meeting, and you can ask questions, and also you can give your idea, share with our honorable speaker, because he also run the next sessions or next meeting with us. Please, you can make note, and you can ask if you have some question and some comment and some of your idea, you can contact with our honorable speaker. So I am just going to the next questions, and from our one question is come from also from Bangladesh, and he's a Rotarian, because especially we ask the question because he's a Rotarian and he's also a banker. So that's why we ask, and we are to know his opinion in ours for the new generations or new faith leaders. What's the thinkings? So next coming question come from our Rotarians and also the bankers from Ranjan Barua. Please, floor is for you. You can ask to the questions to our honorable speaker.
Thank you, Venerable Labdul Barua. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening from Bangladesh to everybody, especially our moderator, Venerable Labdul Barua, and our speaker, Alan Carmen Mains, and Professor Rafal Koronowski, and Natalia, and all of us who have joined with us. Last few hours, I am enjoying the program, and today's subject is Holocaust in the eyes of a Buddhist thought. And I think today's subject is very tough subject. However, we are trying to realize the facts and scenarios all over the world. I am from Bangladesh, and I am also a Buddhist practitioner. My question is regarding our neighbor country, Myanmar. You know, Myanmar is also a Buddhist country. They are Buddhist majority people they have, but now Myanmar is highlighted for their Rohingya crisis. it is clear that human rights are violating at Myanmar against Rohingya. We all of us know that. There is nothing to hide. My question is where the political violence, political agendas are made, then how can religion, can peace, can decrease the genocide or Holocaust or killings? My question is how religion can help us to decrease or to stop genocide or Holocaust when the political violence are very uprising. I want to our speaker, what is your personal views?
As I understand it, you're asking how religion can help ameliorate, to help or counteract this situation of
minimize the situations, because this is because political winner is very gains, because most of the genocide or Holocaust coming from also the political situation or political winnings. So his question is, how will be reduced by the practice of Buddhism or practice of any religions to reduce this kinds of effect, violence effect?
Yeah.
And your personal opinion.
Yes, again, I'm not enough in touch with the specifics of the situation, but I can say that there can only be the attempt or the intention to recognize at least that those who are perpetrating the violence and the system itself is the result of suffering and confusion. So if we can try not to hate them, but have this depth of compassion that recognizes that such acts of aggression are ultimately harming them as well. In other words, the more that we can retain our own humanity and communicate that humanity to others, and simply even hold that view in ourselves, we are not contributing to the problem. In terms of how to, in other words, our mindset, our attitude is important. And from there, what is the skillful action in the situation? I cannot say, because I cannot say. I don't know. I don't know. You probably know more than I know.
Okay.
I only know that it's very important not to create, not to further the polarization and to extremely challenging. I honor you, and I wish I could do better.
So thank you so much, our honorary speaker, and also our Rotarians, Ranjans Barua, for your wonderful questions. And actually today is we have the time factor is the most important. We have a limit time. It's already almost our time is crossed here. So I can tell you that hatred is always compares to our enemy, and hatred create the hatred, and it's not create the peace, is not create the happiness in your life. So be think as a positive and turning up your minds, and then create the positive emotions, positive thinkings, and positively accept what is the right and what is the have a human's value for everyone's, and we can build a wonderful society with peace and harmony. So next, our one comment will be take from our vice Bisal, and then we'll going to the I think we have to be going to the end of our session in here. Please, you just make one comment, short comment, as you requested. Bisal, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, wonderful. Actually, when I was in Bangladesh, people call me Bishal. I'm not Bishal. My name
Thank
is
you,
Bishal.
thank you.
Because India and Bangladesh call me Bishal because yeah, I have the name like their country. And to me, first of all, thank you so much for the organizer who organized this opportunity meeting to gathering, and as well as the opportunity to know Helen. Thank you so much for your sharing. This is a lot of message which alert me, even though I'm not Jewish. But it is very touching seeing my country also experience a genocide. So my thought is thank you so much. I think it's very, you know.
So thank you, and you make a great with us to here. So I think we are going to end our sessions in here, and because this is we are going to again thanks our audience for your active participants, and we cordially would like to invite you for our next session on 2nd September. I think it will be very wonderful, and you can interact with each others, and how can we countering our Holocaust and genocide distortions. So I think it will be a very wonderful, and you can share. Mostly you have a wonderful times will be with our speaker, and she will give your all the answer and also comment and whatever you can share. So we will be see you next week on 2nd of September 2021, 4 p.m. in Bangkok times, and 3 p.m. in Bangladesh time, and Indian times 2:30 p.m. So I cordially invite you, please join with us, and because without your presence, this wonderful conference will be not happens. And I hope also the meeting will be the beneficial for everybody. So you will be joined with us, and we can now please turn on your camera, and we can take a group photo. I think this is a very wonderful memory photo for us, because this is the 3rd session. We have one session only, so we can take one group photo. Turn on your camera.
How can we take a pictures and give the symbol of peace together like this? I really like it. Really vulnerable?
Yeah. So thank you so much again for your wonderful time with us. and for your sacrifice time with us. And we hope everyone be happy and be well at this pandemic times, and take care of yourself and to stay all the times in safely, and use your masks and hand sanitizers and save yourself, because we have to protect, and we have to what is the one comment I can make. Our speaker, honorable speaker, already mentioned that we must have to be know as a Buddhism ourselves, and we must have to be protect ourselves, and we must have to be learn our suffer, learn our happiness, learn our positive and negative emotions from our mind, and we have to play roles as for the humans peace and world peace. Thank you so much to join with us, and I hope you'll be join with us in our next meeting on 2nd of September 2021. And please give your email address, and also make registration with the global Google form, and we will be remind you before conference, and also we will be remind you before our meetings. And please check your emails to get our upgrade news. And also you can got and you can watch our this record video in our two page Facebook page. One is the Never Again Association page, and also one is our another page is we have the two pages. One is Never Again Association, and also another page is Holocaust Education and Genocide Awareness in South and Southeast Asia. And also you can find the video in our personal page, so you can share with your friends, and I think it will be beneficial for your life, and it will be make some value in your life. So thank you so much, and bless you everyone. Be happy and be free from all suffer, and be always be shining mind, or always be calming minds, and always be mindful yourself. Thank you so much, and again thanks and thanks, and which is our privilege and honor to be all of you are with us today, and we have spent a wonderful times each others and to knowing each other. Thank you so much again and again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Have a nice day. Good night. Good morning. Bye bye.